to a tabletop position. And we'll continue with the arch and curl movements in a tabletop. So we'll start to arch our spine into that cow shape, and then round our spine into the cat shape, the angry cat. And you can use your breath with this. When you arch and drop your belly, you can inhale. And then when you round and press the ground away, it could be an exhale. So finding that movement. Something I like to do is bring a little more awareness to the way my pelvis is moving to create the movement. So I start with my pelvis and then ripple through my low back, mid back, upper back, and head. And then start with my pelvis and ripple through my low back, mid back, upper back, and head. So it's almost like you're initiating the movement from the pelvis, and it's like you're flicking a rope forwards, a heavy rope, and it's rippling through all the way up to your head. Now, as you're doing this movement, can you bring in a little more awareness of using your abdominal muscles to make the curl happen, and your back muscles to make the arch happen? Okay, thanks to the lit yoga method for this one. And you can start to circle your pelvis. So it's kind of like a hula hoop movement. And it's really unlocking and rolling around all the muscles around your low back. You can switch directions. Sometimes it's a little hard to get the feeling of this circular movement with your knees fixed. It's like a closed chain movement. Try it. Let it be a little awkward. All right, then you can, if you like, you might elevate your hands on a block or two. You could use one block under both hands or one under each hand. And then take your right foot forwards and cross your right knee in front of your left. Okay, so wherever you get, you could kind of stack them and widen your feet so that you get like an equilateral triangle. And then you can shift forwards and back a bit, so you're maybe feeling the stretch into your glutes. Some of you might even kind of sit down and come back up, so play with it. You can also take your hands off the front block. And stay with that. Of course, some of you might sit right down and get into that IT band stretch, or you're welcome to do that hula hoop movement, and it's a little stranger, a little weirder. In this position, you can go one direction and the other. And then how can you connect to that your core is making the movement happen? Like your abdominal muscles, your side body muscles there, your back muscles. We switch directions. This one took me a little to get used to. Okay, we can unravel the right leg and take the left leg in and in front. So you can stack your knees, wiggle out through that triangle shape. Use a block to elevate if that feels a little softer. You can go forwards and back. So some of you might sit right down, go for it. Some of you might make these little unlocking movements forwards and back. Motion is a lotion. For your fascia, for your tissue. Of course, you can sit right down, take a breather, or come on forwards and make those hula hoop circular movements like you're doing the clock circle. And you can kind of shift your hips a little side to side, or you can almost try to keep your hips in the airspace that they're in and really work with this circle through your core. Okay, switch directions if you like. And then come on out of that. Let your left knee come forwards. You can take that block out of the way. And then I'm going to encourage you to go side to side like this. So your knees can come together, and you can shift one hip to the side and kind of rainbow up and over to the other. So go for that movement. Can even tap your hip to the ground. If your wrists are tired, of course, you can do this on your forearms. we'll come on up. And we're gonna take our right leg forwards and turn to the long edge of our mat. So just get into that shape with your right leg in external rotation and your left leg out. And we'll lean over towards the left leg and take the right hand on the right thigh and push away. So you're really getting some traction here into your side body. I like to almost curl a little in this, turn my fingers down, and push the skin tissue of my right leg away as I'm kind of opening up through my right hip flexor. If your knee's up, you can take your block and put it on something. Maybe that gives you a little bit more safety in the knee. But get this feeling of pulling. You could take a couple breaths into that. Wherever you're at there, you're also welcome to let that go. Take your right arm up and over, maybe dangle it behind your head and lead with your elbow and turn your bottom chest up a little towards the ceiling. You can hold the back of your neck and even pull on it a little bit. You can come on up from that, and we'll start to shift forwards. So shifting right through the center, any amount. Here you might feel a bit more of an inner leg adductor stretch. You can let your head hang. One of my friends recently reminded me that if there was one prayer, it could be thank you. If there's just one important prayer, it could be thank you. So perhaps you're thanking your body for doing its thing for another day and thanking any part of your body that supports you in this moment. Maybe you really let your head hang. And we'll slowly come on up from that. You might stretch out through your legs. Sometimes I like to lean into my right hand here, point my right foot, and stretch up. And maybe even take your hips a little forwards to stretch through your hip flexor. Reach out of your low back. And come on down. We'll switch sides. So we can take our right leg out, our left leg in. And this time we're going to lean over the right leg and push the left top of the thigh away. So find that good spot for yourself. Put a block underneath your knee if you need it. And traction your hip flexor, the sides of your low back. Making space in that side body, in that QL area. You can let that go if you want and come into a bit more of a side stretch with your top arm overhead. Sometimes that might be good, or you could take your hand behind your head and pull on your head, or drape your elbow over your head and lead with your elbow. Making space between now each set of ribs. Into your armpit, into your chest tissue. Let your top arm come all all the way up. And you can stretch out your leg or start to come forwards. And feel free to let a little bit of a rounding come into your spine. Let a big head tuck come. Maybe stretching through the back of your neck. And just as we were sort of subtly using our core to create that circular movement at the beginning of the class, could you think about using your abdominal area to breathe into your lower back? So when you breathe in, you might feel a little kind of toning of the belly, front of the abdomen, and push your breath a bit into your low back. Another way to mobilize your low back is to breathe into it, to feel some movement with your breath. Kind of ballooning through the low back on the inhale phase of your breath. And we're going to slowly roll on up from that. And you can find that rebound by taking your left hand to the floor, pointing your left set of toes, lifting your hips and pushing your hips a little forwards, just as much as feels pleasurably intense. You can take your top arm over. And slowly lower back down. Okay, meet me on your back body. So feet forwards, roll on down. Let the back of our head, back of our chest find the earth. Land into that. From here, you can walk your feet in, this time until you can feel a bit of pressure into your feet, and take your hands on the top of your thigh. If it's hard to reach the top of your thigh, something that might help is to take 1 or 2 blocks underneath your feet, so the ground is a little higher underneath your feet. Then it might be a little easier to access the pushing down onto the top of your upper leg bone. So you can push down on your upper leg bone and see what feels more comforting for you, to kind of lift your chest into an arch as you do that. So we're trying to traction our low back, or press your back flat to the earth. What feels better, kind of that curl or that arch? As you push your thigh bones away, what gives you the most amount of traction, of stretch, of pull through your low back? Thinking about giving space in between all the pieces of your low spine and all the nerves that come through that region, giving them space. Now we'll use our breath to create a little bit more of a traction, so the breath work can be a big breath in. Exhale everything out, and you can push. And then sucking your abdominal area back in and up on an exhale retention, so without breathing in. Releasing it, breathing in and out. So big pull on the exhale retention, so empty your breath. Let's try it again. So you can inhale, exhale everything out, push, and then empty your breath, sucking in your abdominal contents and kind of pulling them up under your ribs. And then getting a bit longer between your hips and your head, between your hips and your ribs. Letting that go and taking an inhale breath. Great. Okay, so if your blocks are under your feet, you can move them. We'll come into the yin banana shape. So we'll walk our feet over to the left of the mat, our ribs over to the left of the mat, so your hips are in the center. And you can cross your right ankle, top ankle over your left. And you can also take your arms over your head and pull on your right wrist. So you could pull on your right wrist. I actually like to pull on my right elbow and get that side stretch through your right side. Now you might feel like your right side is lifting up a little bit. And just as we did with the pelvic clock, could you push down through your right abdominal muscles, through the right side of your pelvis, that frontal hip point on your right pushing down towards the earth? You might get a little more length out of the right side of your spine. Let's breathe here for a few moments. You might get interested in lengthening out your breath, especially the exhale phase of your breath. Okay, we can come on through the center, inching ribs, feet into the center. In between these sides, you can plant your feet and do a little bit of the arch curl movement. Sometimes I like to do it a little quicker. In fact, I like to do it so quick that I'm kind of doing a heel rock, and by pressing my heels into the floor, I'm getting that anterior and posterior tilt of my pelvis a little bit quicker. Or you can do it a little more with your abdominal muscles as well, and your back muscles. So finding a bit of release, a bit of relief. We'll switch sides, walking our feet over to the right side of our mat, inching our ribs over to the right. And you can this time hold your left wrist or your left elbow. You can take your top left ankle over top of your right and ground down through the left side of your pelvis a little more. A little abdominal dropping through the left side. And if you're getting any pinching or restriction, ease up the side bend and go for length. Again, an opportunity to lengthen out your breath. You can release through your arms when you're ready and inch your way to the middle. Plant your feet. And this time as a rebound, we'll take our block. So you can grab your block and lift up your pelvis and take your block right underneath your pelvis. So you get a little lift there so that your pelvis is situated on the block, not your low back, but the back of your pelvis.